Hello everyone, and welcome to the Bristol Life Business Club with Bevan Britton. I hope this finds you as well as it might, and that you and your loved ones continue to be safe. My name is Greg, and welcome to this latest business club. And by the way, it's no longer Tales from the Lockdown. It's now emerging into the new world. We will, of course, reflect on what we've learned during this period of lockdown, but for now, it's much more about getting on with whatever we're going to be doing in the coming weeks and coming months. We're trying to help businesses and employees in these tough times with practical advice and valuable insights, because we can all do with help. So from perhaps a slightly parochial point of view, I'd like to say that it's just under 10 weeks now until Bristol Life returns once more, and we really just can't wait. Our first issue will be published on September 18th. Businesses, local independents in recent times, we've been touched by the support which we've received from the business community here in Bristol. We're all flesh and blood, all in the same storm, albeit in different boats, and we're all in need of buoying up. And thank you for all of your support so far. We want to play our part to the absolute full when we return. So, like this, we want to be celebrating the best of the city, promoting our businesses, galvanizing some of the business thinking, such as today, providing help and insight where we can, and maintaining a plausibly positive tone, giving you reassurance about what's happening in Bristol, giving our take on how and why, that are grounds for cautious, careful optimism in the coming weeks and months. But either way around, wherever you are on the scale between fearful and pessimistic and optimistic and wherever, ultimately, we've all simply just got to get on with it, come what may. And there's something even more fundamental than that, that we all need to be cognizant of, which is belief. And so much this does come down to belief. Take what happened in the great crash of 2008, initially called the credit crunch. Credit, the Latin term credere, meaning to believe, because the value system was threatened. Very literally, we didn't know what anything was actually worth. And in some ways, there's no such thing as intrinsic worth in any case. And because of that, value plummeted. People did not know what to believe. We think it's a similar thing happening here right now. Because we do not know, no one can know what trading will be like in Q4. Because we do not know whether anyone will buy our products and our services and our dinners and our pints and our tickets for our events, and hospitality and retail and so on. We do not know. Because of that, it's easy for us as individuals to sit on our hands, to be cautious. We are in danger of being rabbits dazzled by the headlights of doubt. But if we do all sit back, then we're all going to be affected. We don't get out, others just won't see us, even at that practical level. Others won't be comforted by some aspects of normality. Others would feel cautious simply going into restaurants and shops and bars, cafes and so on, or even offices. In short, if we don't buy and get out there, then money won't flow through our economy. And that ultimately is in no one's interest. So instead, enlightened self-interest should rule, as it so often does. And of course, within all of this, we're all going to be governed by the strictures, the guidelines of what is appropriate, what is safe, and so on. We all need that degree of reassurance. And we strongly feel that perhaps what we believe now or feel now about the world won't be what it'll be in 6-8 weeks' time when the autumn starts. Sorry to write on the summer so quickly, but whenever the autumn cuts in, perhaps when kids are back at school and so on, the world will feel differently. So whilst we are quite rightly cautious now, provided that collectively we begin to take the actions that are needed, then collectively we can all benefit. And at last, during this great pause, just in recent weeks, we've seen some signs of businesses coming back. Slowly, a bit groggily, but emerging nonetheless from hibernation. To business. Last week, we had the latest Bristol Life Business Surgery, expert advice seeking to guide you on vital decisions in the coming months. That was with close brothers about personal finance, but crossing over into business finance as well. It really is not easy for any of us, of course, with our business plans long since upended, but good luck to us all. One other, if you have time-sensitive news, such as some business opening up, please do talk to us about using the Bristol Life weekly newsletter. out every Friday. Our doors are open. And also good to see, talking of hashtags and slogans and so on, good to see that the council, the various Bristol bids and Visit Bristol have taken our hashtag Bristol Together approach as part of a wider play to promote the city. We are absolutely all in this together. And again, mutual enlightened self-interest really will apply to us all. So today, we'll be hearing from 3 speakers from disparate, dare I even say, eclectic areas of Bristol's economy. Nicola Bartlett from the Eclectic gift shop. Caroline Herbert from Bristol Sport, and Sarah Arakan, owner of Berwick Lodge. We'll be running short interviews with each of them, and please send your questions through using the Q&A button at the bottom, and we'll cover as many as we can. And if you wish to ask anonymously, entirely up to you, or otherwise we'll assume that you're named as your company. So if we may, let's begin with Sarah. And Sarah, you could come forward.
Okay, here I am.
By the powers of Zoom.
Hello.
Hello. Very good to see you. How are you this morning?
Fine, thank you. Yes, really good. Looking forward to moving on, bringing Bristol together. Yeah, really good, thank you.
Yeah, so tell us just on a personal side, we will have a little bit looking backwards, but as I say, it's mainly looking forwards. And how have you personally been navigating this period of lockdown, Sarah? You, your family, your teams and so on?
Yes, well, it's been a challenge. It's been, an eye-opener. But I think we've managed okay. And I mean, obviously in the early days, we were firefighting, weren't quite sure what was going to happen, where it was going to go, what the plans were. But as we move further on, and I feel like it's like a ship, we're sailing on a steady course now, basically. We've kept our teams involved virtually. And I felt that was really important because most of what we do here is all about our customer service and great food. And so obviously the team, they're customers and they need to be part of that as well. So we've really tried to keep them involved. But I feel we're on a steady course, opening on 12th of August. And yeah, I think Bristol's looking in a good place. So yes.
We'll come on to some wider thoughts from you and our other panelists about Bristol as a whole, because one way or another, we have that mutual self-interest in hoping, believing that Bristol will bounce back if that's not to a positive a turn. But I want to talk about one aspect of your customers that clearly you'd have had people buying ahead in terms of booking rooms to stay, booking tables, and also weddings. On the whole, how have they responded? Have they sought to get their money back straight away? Are they carrying it over?
No, people have been excellent, actually. I must say, we've had to move about 30 odd weddings. And obviously, and in actual fact, when lockdown went on the 20th of March, it was the 19th of March, on that Saturday, we actually had a wedding booked for 70 or 80 people that we had to, we heard on the evening, on the Friday, that we weren't going to be able to go ahead with it. And the bride and all her bridesmaids had checked in, so we had to obviously go and talk to them and say to them, unfortunately they weren't able to go ahead with the actual wedding. They could have the ceremony with just 2 people, and they couldn't have anybody to eat, so we had to package up all their food and things. So that, to be honest with you, was quite traumatic, and they were absolutely fantastic. I mean,
good for them.
Incredible, and most of our brides and grooms have been absolutely incredible, and they have all postponed to later dates. So we've just tried to make, and also we've given them the option if they want to just come and get married and just have a couple of people in the ceremony, and they obviously go off site. They can do that. We had one on Saturday doing that actually, but most people are moving them to next year. So next year's looking pretty good. We've just
from a cash flow point of view, I mean, of course, many, certainly if it was that very day, but many would have paid, I guess, a reasonable sized deposit. That
absolutely.
You wished, of course, to hold that as far as you could.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and we've just carried it over to next year, basically, and kept everything the same, all the prices, and everything exactly the same for them. So yeah, so it has been a bit of managing, but and I kept 4 members of the team on, like the gardener, my wedding coordinator, my sales and marketing manager, myself, and Natasha in accounts, because obviously we were looking at daily cash flow forecasts. Yeah. That's the tricky thing, because we're not a massive company. We are quite a small company. So, yeah, and they've all been incredible. I mean, gosh, yeah. So So yeah,
all sectors have been hit. Everyone's been affected one way or t'other, some more profoundly. But I just want to ask this question about you, perhaps personally in your sector, as someone who is inherently sociable, because the nature of hospitality. Has that actually? Do you think it hit you harder as a result, that you were not able to do what you ordinarily would do?
yes, I think it does. I think it affects your confidence a bit as well, actually, because you're so used to pleasing people and wanting to be with people, and that is part of what, that is everything that you do, and especially for us because we're very operational. I serve tables, I'm working in the business, and then suddenly not to be doing that and just to be answering phones and moving people's bookings and having to phone and disappoint people, and yeah, it has been quite challenging, I must say. Yes, it has been challenging, but yeah, but we kind of, like you said, it's like 10 weeks on now, isn't it? So you kind of we're kind of you get used to this path basically, and find your way out. So I actually feel really optimistic. Yeah,
you certainly sound it. I mean, it's shining through in your excitedness and so on. I guess human beings are sort of endlessly adaptable, and we are in the different circumstances now. We probably will feel in different circumstances in a few weeks' time, and the world will look different again. But so you retain that optimism. You think the business is in a sufficiently robust position. None of us can be too confident, but you're in a sort of
absolutely, yeah. We did forecast, like cash flow forecast, where we did so many different scenarios, but where we took out all of our revenue until January, because from January onwards it's looking fantastic, because obviously everything's moved. So we've done scenarios like that, so we have no surprises basically. So which is why we're doing a phased reopening. You're opening on the 12th, we're opening for about 4 days that week, the following week 3 days, just because to manage everything, because you don't know how many people are going to be coming back. We hope we're going to get lots, but you just don't know. And so we've just made sure that we're in a really safe position, basically playing it safely. Yeah, I feel like I'm in a casino at the moment. Just like get the cards out. So we're just being really safe, and and also managing our reputation. Like I said, it's so important for us. So
what about in your sector, particularly social distancing, this 1 meter plus thing? Tell me what it's going to be like to be to have food with you, or to be at an event with your team and so on. What would it look like? What will it feel like from a consumer's point of view?
Well, basically, we've tried to. It won't look much different to how we've taken out a few tables, but not many. If you're talking about afternoon teas and lunches and dinners, because our tables are quite widely spaced, and also we've got very large garden space, and we've got our Muse building. So we were thinking we could use the Muse also if it's raining as an overspill area. And we've cut a big long piece of wood that's 2 meters, because we've decided to keep everyone 2 meters apart. And because we have a lot of different sort of clientele. We might have some older people. That I've actually had a lady call me today, say she's shielding because she makes sure she's miles away from everybody. So obviously so I've got this 2 meter wooden stick that we lay out between tables, and we can see exactly how far, and if people want to see that as well, they can. So we're just going to make everyone feel really safe. We are going to be all wearing visors actually, and we've got all the necessary signage, but it's still going to be very personable service, which is why I kind of went for the visors, because you can see our mouths, and actually my gardener is deaf as well, so I thought it was important to be able people to see our faces, and
What's really peculiar, having without naming any names, having been to a couple of restaurants since the rules were relaxed and so on, I've been slightly surprised and frankly a little bit unnerved at how normal it is that the waiting staff haven't worn visors or masks or whatever, and have actually sort of leant in, and they've.
Oh no, I don't like that. Yes.
I mean, you're taking a more cautious view in that respect.
Absolutely, yeah.
What sort of guidance have you had from any, I don't know, trade bodies or some such, or even governmentally, about what you need to do as opposed to what you wish to do?
Well, obviously you've got all the government guidance, which has been very late coming. But anyway, yes, so we've got another story. But we've got all that. But also the trade bodies, like, for example, I belong to the caterer, and also Big Hospitality, Kate Nichols from there. They are absolutely fantastic. But the thing for me, because everybody is doing different things, is I went to Cornwall actually for a couple of days to do some research. I wanted to see, that was last week, to see what they're doing, what I liked. So I went from a customer point of view on that physical journey, and there was some stuff that I just thought, oh, I'm absolutely not going to do that, and things that I was going to do. So the whole thing about the buy, I just want some people to come in and feel completely safe. So, and for me, it's really important. It's all about that branding thing and being able to trust the brand and to trust what we're doing. So that's kind of the stance I took. But I do think doing that bit of market research in other hotels was absolutely fantastic. I'm so glad I did it. I've read all the good bits, so yeah.
One way or another, I suspect there's sort of is like an X and Y axis almost. So that which we have to do, which is compliance and so on, and that which we wish to do, which gives reassurance. And somewhere in all of that, there is a sweet spot, because you can go so far on reassurance, but you end up with a sort of quite an antiseptic sort of experience. That's the danger of hospitality, particularly. It all feels a bit too austere or something. But at the same time, we all have to encourage people to feel reassured, and that's going to be a challenge for you, I suspect. Anyone in the sector, how you reassure.
Yeah, exactly. It is that reassurance, which is why from the minute you speak to someone on the phone or you email them, you're giving them that reassurance and knowing that it's still going to be friendly and the food's going to be amazing and they can walk around dark. I think also for me, when I was going away, I was looking for an experience, like, just seeing flowers or, just things like that, to a bit of mindfulness. And I, for me, that was really important. So that's kind of what we want to create when people come here. So, and to recreate that and people just to feel relaxed and safe, really. So come on, Bristol. So I keep thinking, I feel that we can do this, I really do. And there's so many amazing independent places out there. And I'm just like, really like, come on. Yes.
Well, okay, yeah, we'll do that thing. In infectiousness, in a positive sense, it's an unfortunate metaphor. Is really shining through today. So thank that. If temporarily we could mute you, we'll bring you back for the panel.
Of course.
So thank you. And let's bring forward Caroline Herbert from Bristol Sport. We all have our different stories, our different experiences, and so on. You've had one account there, but tell us from your point of view, Caroline, how these last few weeks have been, how you've personally responded to it, whether sort of domestically but also professionally. What's it been like for you?
Yeah, I mean, if we go back, it was tough when the government announced, obviously, that we're going into lockdown. I think first and foremost, we wanted to protect our people, both, in terms of their economic situation, their mental health. So, the majority of our teams were furloughed, as you can imagine. And it was really important to stay connected to them. But then also for the remaining staff to feel like that there was kind of a goal, a purpose, a focus. It was tough in the early days. So for us, it was about how can we support ourselves and also our partners to make sure that they come out as positively out of this as possible. So yeah, and it was, hard to adapt, obviously, but I think thank goodness for Zoom and, conferencing. So yeah, it was hard going, but we found glimmers of hope, lots of engagement across our social channels, as you'd expect from our fan base. New revenue streams opened, e-commerce remained strong. We worked with partners to support their businesses, so there was still a lot to do.
Tell us a little bit about those new revenue streams you just mentioned. What sort of stuff, and maybe some idea of scale, if that's relevant?
Yeah, I suppose, it was very difficult. So we had lots of businesses. We were churning out lots of content, as we do with our players. We're very fortunate that we've got heroes and influencers in our teams. So we work with them sometimes just to support our partners' businesses, but in other cases, and a good example here, we work with John Shepherd Butchers. They suddenly saw their whole market transition from a mainly commercial marketplace into a domestic one. And so we work with the players and them on a paid for basis to create content where the players created meals at home with their families. Nice. Got huge traction with our fan base. There was a discount code available to our fans, and they saw a huge, I think it was something like 300% return on investment from that promotion. So it was looking at things in the digital space, really, and focusing on our e-commerce sites a lot more, and selling merchandise.
Yeah. Well, at the heart, of course, for you as an enterprise, you must have been one of the hardest hit, and quite possibly the hardest hit of any businesses in Bristol. Severely affected of all larger scales, of sporting events, other events cancelled, loss of revenues and so on. Trying to sort of project what those revenues might be and to restrain as far as you can your cost base from a business point of view must have been really very difficult indeed. What was that process like?
It was fluid, is an often used phrase at this time, but we were just scenario planning all the time, not understand, you know, as you said, our revenue stream was cut off not only from an events and meeting point of view, but sports just stopped, and hospitality ticket sales is such a huge part of our revenue, and we just still really don't get a strong sense of when that's all going to come back. So a bit like Sarah, you know, we're planning that nothing will really come back until January, so we've had to really manage our cost base. The furlough scheme has helped, obviously, and where we can transition and drive revenue has been key, but we're constantly scenario planning. You know, it's great that football's come back, and with it does open different revenue streams. I think the key is to invent, be creative. So in those scenarios, you know, branded seat covers, I don't know if anyone's seen any of our live streams, but certainly you've seen it in the Premier League. They're probably the highest value asset at the moment is for companies to brand themselves through live games and through our live stream. So we've created a fantastic program around our live stream, and that's creating, again, opportunities to drive ticket sales, but also advertising channels. But we're a big employer in the city as well. We pride ourselves on that. So we're trying our utmost to protect as many people as we can.
Caroline, you're not someone, of course, to hide your light under a bushel. So please avail yourself of this opportunity. Give us the pitch, 30 seconds or some such, on why companies should buy those branded seats. What's in it for them? What does it cost? Why should they do it?
Oh, very good. Thank you very much, Greg. Yeah, I mean, it's a fantastic opportunity. I think with sport, more than any other sector I've ever worked in, you've got such huge engagement from the fan base. They feel part of the club. It is their club. So they will follow it to the end. And I think the visibility that those branded seat covers give, it's through the whole 90 minutes or 80 minutes of play, depending on football or rugby. Huge brand visibility, engagement, and the show that we produce, if anyone's seen it, there's about an hour preamble before the kickoff and then an hour afterwards with post-match analysis. So it does give you huge visibility, and a lot of our games are on Sky or BT Sport, so you get national coverage as well. So huge numbers.
How much does it cost?
Depends on the size. So people can contact me at bristol-sport.co.uk.
Yeah, I'm sure they will. We'll make sure in the email and comms about this that goes out afterwards that we put that out there, because, you know, whether, I mean, you're from a much larger company than you know, others on these business clubs and so on, but it's the same principle that whatever scale of company you are, everyone needs support and everyone can give different forms of benefit. And I'm sure the visibility of that and other areas will be one of the things that help you transition. So tell me this, though. Tell me about the football or any sporting experience of what it is like on match day. I mean, do you go to the matches on match day? Are you allowed to go?
No, I mean, we have to be very careful on numbers. Obviously, again, what's critical is that we want to finish the season. We want to protect the players. So the whole stadium, we've got a fantastic head of security in Dave Storr, and he has mapped out green, amber and red zones. So we're able to go to the stadium, but it's very important that we keep it sterile. I go on to do certain checks, but I will only go into the green zones. When I arrive, my temperature is taken. I have to fill out a form so that if anybody contracts COVID or that I can be traced and contacted. But it's very, the inner circle is very tight. They have to protect the players, and everybody wants to see the season out. And I think that's what's great about sport, is that appetite for it coming back was just huge. And we've seen it in the audience figures on TV, the live streaming we're getting, and I think that's what's great. It does bounce back. It gives me confidence that things can be restored. So
if as they are, if restaurants are in a very conditional way open and able to trade, is there a prospect of some of those hospitality suites being opened up for sporting events, in that, you know, a place that might take 20 might be able to take 8 or 10 or some such. Is that being explored, or is that just a non?
Yeah, of course. I mean, we've explored it. We feel confident that we can get 10,000 people in the stadium with a 1 metre distance. But obviously we have to do that in accordance with government guidelines and policies. So we're lobbying with the league and the government to kind of open it up. Obviously we're fortunate in that we've got huge spaces, very high ceilings. It's very easy for us to social distance. So we're really, you know, we're hopeful. The sports minister has said that he hopes crowds will come back in September. I've heard figures of 30%, but nothing has been confirmed. I know there was a piece in the national papers saying that some Premier League clubs hope full stadiums will be allowed back in. But I think that will depend on, you know, lots of checks and measures, people being compliant in terms of coming in at certain times. But we're fortunate, we've got lots of toilets. You know, we can probably make it work much easier than some restaurants and pubs.
Yeah, and this is almost from a fan perspective, but if you've got, you know, whatever proportion of season ticket holders and your capacity that are initially allowed is below that, how do you juggle and prioritise if you know, I've got a season ticket or some such, you know, how can you do that? What's the answer?
I don't know whether we've come up with the answer yet. I think it's incredibly difficult. If you look at City, over 16,000 season cards this season, 12,000 have renewed. It's slightly easier with Bears in that it's a smaller, to date, it's a smaller fan base, one that's growing, but you know, you could safely accommodate all season card holders for Bears. City's trickier. You know, we've talked, do you do it on rotation? Do you know, it's really hard because they're loyal, dedicated fans. So how do you distinguish between one and another? I mean, there's obviously, we have multiple families. You know, lots of our season card holders come with their families, so it might be possible to, if you kept them in their bubble, to actually accommodate more season card holders because they'll be within the family unit. But it's incredibly hard. It's the same with hospitality. You know, our boxes sit 12 people, but they're more enclosed spaces. You know, there's the whole thing about being sat next to one another rather than opposite each other. It's challenging, and we're just trying to work through that within the guidelines, really.
And what about, I don't know how many City home games there were, maybe 4 home games or something left. Did you typically refund that, or did people carry it over to next season? And from a cash point of view, how did it work?
Yeah, I mean, it's really challenging. I don't think people quite appreciate how expensive it is to run a professional sports organisation, and cash flow was key. But obviously, we had to give our fans the option of a refund, which we did. So there was the option of a refund, the same for any hospitality clients, or it was a credit for hospitality clients, or they got the live stream for free for the remaining games, and a load of other associated benefits. And the live stream itself, we had 5 home games, 9 games in total, would have cost £90. So actually the value back was much greater, but we had to give them the option, obviously.
And what about your business events? I mean, it's notable that Ashton Gate, frankly more so than any other place, sporting place I've been to, really plays its place very well of board meetings through to much larger scale events. Yeah. What's your working assumption of when you might have either the smaller stuff like the board meetings or presentations, but really also the larger events where you take up to 700, is it? In the main?
Yeah, 850. I mean, I think
850.
We want to take it carefully. You know, people's safety is of our utmost importance. So in terms of projections, we're not looking really till January. There are small things that we can do. We've our coffee shops reopened Thursday, Friday and Saturday to serve the local community and also anyone that's working on site. The shop also has limited opening. We're transitioning Ashton Gate. We've got drive-in cinema coming in August, which again is new revenue streams. We've opened up.
Caroline, what are you showing at this cinema? Do you know? Have you got a roster?
Oh, I know Shawshank is one of the films that
very good.
I can't remember the whole list, but I think we've always been really inventive at looking at how we can transition a very flexible space to
as a sort of filmic metaphor for current times, I'd have thought Shawshank is about as rising against the eternal triumph of human will and then the release at the end. Sort of the narrative we're in.
Yes, we would probably use that GIF in some of our player signings or opening up. But we're really excited about opening up the stadium. We're such a big part of that community.
I bet. Caroline, for now, if I could ask you to devidify, which probably isn't a word, yourself, and we'll call you back in just a second. Thank you very much indeed. A different area, I said we were eclectic. We're very literally eclectic because we're going to go over to Nicola now, the Eclectic gift shop. And we'd like to talk with Nicola about her shop, of course, but also about retail slightly more broadly, and then Hanham, because I know that you're a great sort of proponent for the Hanham area.
That's right.
So Nicola, tell us a little bit about what you do, what you've not been able to do, and then into what it was like that first day when you reopened.
Of course. Well, I own a retail business that specialises in selling artwork, gifts, jewellery, lots of handmade items made in Bristol, and we're based in the heart of Hanham High Street. And so I had to close the doors like loads of other small businesses at the start of lockdown. And I thought, okay, what am I going to do? So instead of focusing on what I couldn't do, which was, talk with customers and, carry on as normal, I created a retail website. I tried several things, actually. The first thing I was doing was sort of local deliveries. And after that, I thought there's a huge demand for this. I was really overwhelmed by the support of customers. And so I decided to create a retail website, which is still going strong now.
Good. And then that first day you reopened, you obviously had I'm sure, some degree of caution, thinking, bloody hell, is anyone going to turn up?
Of course.
So when was your first customer? And what was that like to actually see a real customer?
Yeah, it was fantastic. I mean, I was really lucky. So because I am based on the heart of the high street, it was a real shock to suddenly not be within the community, because within the space of almost 3 years, so much has happened. There's children that, they've come in really proud on their first day of school. So I know lots about the sort of like the families here, but many did keep in touch throughout lockdown. So some might have had my number and they phoned and said, oh, how's it going? How are you getting on? And so that was really nice. So there wasn't a complete void. It was nice to still have some sort of connection, and of course via social media. But it was just amazing sort of opening back, and I was nervous, like lots of many other people would be. You do have that initial, is anyone going to come in? But it was just fantastic.
Pretty good. And tell us about the Hanham, the immediate community and so on. You're a big proponent for it. You bang a drum and so on. Tell us about the work that you were doing before and then were able to do during lockdown and subsequently.
That's right. Well, I run a campaign called Love Hanham High Street, which is across social media, and that champions all the businesses on the high street. So I try to encourage them to take photos of their businesses and share those, so that it brings people out and so that they experience what's going on here as a community. I also run sort of annual events on the high street, which I launched. So for instance, I was gearing up, because it was April time, to run an Easter egg hunt along the high street. So we obviously had to cancel that. And that's really nice because it brings the community together. They have a lot of fun. And, they might say, oh, Nicola, I didn't know there was a florist here, or I didn't know this was this there or that there. I think if everybody can work together, it's much nicer. And there is a lot of that in Hanham. So there's a sort of community that's been around for a long time, sort of long before I opened. And there's also lots of newcomers to the area. So the housing here is sort of relatively affordable. There's a lot of first-time buyers, sort of young people, young families sort of starting out here. And so they bring a lot of like fresh energy and ideas to the area as well, and are keen to get involved in events and take part in that. I mean, part of that, so one big thing I've had to change is I launched a workshop programme within the shop. So I would host it here, and one of the small businesses that sell their work, they would talk about their business with a small group of 8 people within the community, and they would teach them a skill. So they might teach them how to make a piece of jewellery, a bit of fused glass, knitting, crochet and so on. So obviously I've had to cancel all of those sort of workshops as well.
Tell us about retail. I don't want to be, we all have to find the positives, and we've heard quite a bit today already, but retail structurally obviously faces a big issue, and it's been extremely well documented in a long-term trend that the growth of online broadly and the decline of high street specifically means that it's challenging for you. What's your level of optimism about retail per se in these new times?
I'm really optimistic. I think things will change, but hopefully they'll change for the better. I mean, I found since opening, so it's actually almost a month now since the 15th of June, and I've been so overwhelmed by support. I'm quite taken aback. So I'm taking around about double that I was this time last year.
Wow.
And I feel really positive moving forward. And customers have said that they really want small independent businesses to thrive. Yeah, it's been really humbling and just really nice to sort of be a part of that. So I'm hoping that's going to be the case, and it's the same with other businesses on the high street. For instance, there's an independent bike shop here and an independent hardware store, and they both remained open throughout lockdown as per the rules, and they had lots of support. There's also a cake shop that switched to doing deliveries, and people were keen to buy their cake. So I'm feeling positive that it is on people's mindset. I think because everyone was forced to slow down and think, you really think about actually what is it do I value? What, where do I want to spend my money? Who do I want to support? And I think it's sort of refocused and put the highlight on small businesses in that respect. And
you've touched on this in your recent blog as well, that whole sense of contemplative thinking about why we do what we do and so on. Thank you for that. On to some of those broader themes. If I could ask Sarah and Caroline to rejoin us, that would be good. And as they say, back in the room. Let me talk about this. What do you think, whether specific to your areas or perhaps more generally, what do you think of the changed circumstances will endure on the other side when we're all back, whatever back means? Do you think we're going to be changed by this experience?
Yeah, I think I imagine working patterns will change. I think if anything, this has shown how quickly you can adapt and work from home and still be productive. So I think it'll be interesting to see that shift between working in the office, where I think there's huge benefits, but also balancing that with some time at home. I think that might be one key change that we see.
Yeah, and I think I agree with you actually, and I also think people are going to be more mindful. So that goes with the whole working from home thing, doesn't it? And even here, like, we've never thought about people working from home, but my wedding coordinator and my sales and marketing can work some days at home and then do meetings here. And I think it's going to be more like that work-life balance that I think people are looking for. So I think that's a really good thing, actually.
How about you, Nicola? What do you think will endure of these forced changes?
I mean, it's very interesting because I speak to so many people day in, day out, and it is very clear that while it has been a very stressful time, there have been lots of positives that have come out of it, and people have managed to spend more time with their families and have reflected on they like the new sort of working patterns and working from home, and also being based on a high street that's not within the centre itself. I actually found that more people are actually now engaging with the high street. So I think it has actually already started changing people's behaviour, because I've had lots of brand new people sort of come into the shop since opening, and they said, oh, I had no idea that you were here, and I live locally, and I feel terrible. And I was walking by, and it's because they're not just on that 9 to 5, just in the car to the office in the centre. People are exploring their local areas, and whether that's sort of, the nature around. So there's a couple of nature reserves nearby, or their local sort of high streets. People are discovering different things, and so it's changing people's behaviour.
Just to that point, and you've sort of touched on this, do you think that lockdown, and thereby subsequently that it makes everything local, that we're all that much more aware of our local circumstances, our shops, our walks, or whatever? Or do you think, all well and good, but actually we'll just revert. We'll go to what we did previously. We'll be buying from national brands, international brands, etc. We won't be quite as locally focused as we've been forced to be these last 10 weeks or so. Do you think it'll endure that localism?
I think
so.
Yeah, I do too. I think people are definitely thinking more about local, and like I said, mindfulness, thinking about what they're doing. I definitely agree with that.
Yeah, I think it was an emerging trend, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I think there was a move towards supporting local independence, and I think we've got such a rich tradition in Bristol. I think, of course, people will revert back. I think for me, the thing I'd love to see happen is how wonderful the environment became during that period. And again, I think Bristol is a very green, credential city, probably best place to push on with electric scooters, electric bikes, but I'm disappointed that the traffic has come back so quickly, and I think there's an opportunity that the world could embrace, because you heard birdsong. I just felt I noticed things around me much more during lockdown.
And Caroline, the business is a really interestingly positioned one, because on the one hand, it's a massive enterprise. I don't know how many people roughly work there, well, what sort of scale?
We across the piece, some of them obviously not full time, about 1,300 people. Right,
that's a real scale business, and whatever turnover, many millions of turnover it has. But on the other, it's also a local independent, and so arguably Bristol Sport, more so than most, is in a position to capitalise on the scale of offering, but also that sense of locality. Are you thinking about the brand in perhaps a different way than previously?
Yeah, I think we are very local in what we do. We've got 4 thriving foundations that work in the local community, and I think Steve's is proud of the work that they do. Building, and it's not about building the brand; it's about making a positive difference. I think we still have that challenge on. We want a wider community that's global, but obviously we want more of our local community. We've got a population of close to 500 million, and we don't fill the stadium every week. So clearly there is an opportunity. And I think out of this, people still crave experiences and they want contact. I think people are craving for that. I worry, I see people, almost kill themselves to avoid passing people in the street. And I hope that isn't a lasting legacy of this. I hope we can come back as humans, because we are very tactile, and that's what's great about sport. It's about shared experience, reliving those sporting moments, both good and bad. So yeah, we're poised. I
don't know if any of you have experienced this, but watching some sort of TV shows and films, and you see the sort of physicality and touching, not sexual necessarily, obviously, but that sort of, you think it feels just a little bit weird already, because we are not doing that at the moment. Do you think that tactile, experiential aspect, that is going to be one of the sort of last to come back, a sense of the joy of sport and hugging and so on, or do you think we'll as soon as we can, we'll revert straight to?
I think that will take time, personally, to bring that back. I almost feel like we're like toddler, like babies, and then going to toddlers, and then learning to walk, and then falling over, and then picking ourselves up, and then running. That's kind of how I'm looking at it. That's kind of how I feel it's going to be. And I must admit, I get the same thing as you. If I watch something and they're like in a crowd or something, and they're all cheering, and I'm just like, oh my God, it just feels so fun. It just feels so weird. So, but I do think it will come back, but it will just take some time. And once again, I think it's about building that confidence. It's that whole confidence thing for all of us. So
if you take that metaphor, and I'll ask Nicola then Caroline this, take the metaphor of toddlers to babies to kids to young adults, whatever. Where are we right now? What do you think of your business? Are you in a cot stage, toddler stage?
Wow. Yeah. Each stage, I think, each part of the business is at different stages. So, for instance, I suppose the website's in the sort of the baby stage, and it's sort of growing, and it's just sort of adapting to, things are going to change. I don't know. There's always the thing is with this is that there's just been so much to that has happened in this short space of time. it is so difficult to put into words, like the amount that you've sort of learned from that, whether that's sort of personally what really is important to you. I mean, I think for me, the last 3 years, I've just sort of moved so quickly with growing the shop and putting a lot of energy into it, to suddenly sort of stop and then think and reflect. It is almost like, yes, like a re-emerging. So it's sort of new in that respect, young in that respect.
And Caroline, for you, in terms of sort of, it's a slightly leading question. I don't know the answer, obviously, but have you thought differently about yourself and your professional life as a result of this experience? Are you sort of reimagining yourself as a result? Don't say no.
No.
Duff question.
It is a tough question.
I said duff.
Duff. Oh, tough and duff.
Yeah.
I always get I'm an extrovert naturally, so I get my energy from people. And so I found lockdown initially very, very difficult. But I've actually grown accustomed to my own company, which isn't a bad thing. And, you know, those inner reserves of, you know, how you motivate yourself when you're by yourself, I think I've learned more about that. Has it changed me? I think the world's a tough place. You know, trying to drive, you know, I look after the commercial rights of the club, so I'm actively looking to drive revenue and commercial partnerships. That's hard. So again, it's about being inventive and waiting for a more positive time. I don't think I've reevaluated what I want so much. I've just learned a lot more that I'm better by myself than I thought I would be.
Here's a very practical question, which you may have an answer for. I've no idea. This is from Alistair Reznicki. What infection control best practice tips are you seeing from the front line? And then, rather opaquely, at least to me, he adds Mrs. Gel. Beats me. Any practical top tips about infection control? Or not? Go on, say not.
About what? Sorry, about professionals.
No, infection control.
Oh, infection control. Gosh, that's making sure you've got everything in place. I mean, obviously, it's probably going to happen, isn't it? Yeah. So make sure everything's in place. So I would say for that one.
Yeah.
Let's move on from sort of the smaller points to the larger scale. Let's talk about, and we've touched on this, your assumptions about your business area, your sector, and then into Bristol. So you've mentioned, Nicola, already that sales are running perhaps 2x what they were at the equivalent period. If you looked at the September to Christmas period, this New Year period, where do you think your business will be compared with where it was in the equivalent period?
I'm feeling really positive about it, and I genuinely believe that there is a real change in people wanting to support small local businesses. And so I think it's going to be much higher. I mean, there's a couple of reasons for that. It's because now I do have a retail website as well, which means that my customer base is much larger because people can order from, at the moment, just all over the UK. At some point, it will be international. But if it carries on sort of as it is, I don't see why it should go back the other way. And when, you know, if we keep on this course that we're on, I'm feeling really, really positive about it, that it's just going to keep growing.
And Sarah, your year on year, your sort of working assumptions, what's it be like for you?
I think it's going to be tough from September to December. Well, from August till December, definitely. Like I said, from January 21 is looking really good. But I think it's going to be different and tough, but we're ready because, you know, like I said, we've taken everything out and worked out a plan and strategy. So yeah, I think it's going to be tough, but you know, I might be surprised. It would be great, you know, and we're just focused on different things. But I mean, once we're allowed bigger numbers, you know, and we're able to do like small parties or, you know, golden wedding celebrations or 40th birthdays, and it'd be slightly different. So yeah, but you know, 2021 will be great. So yeah, let's see what happens.
Okay, and Caroline, I'm going to swerve that question with you because you've sort of touched on that immediate period that so much depends on when you're allowed the larger scale, whether it's sporting events or business events.
Mm.
Out into calendar 21, what do you think the sort of scale of business might be? And I'm not asking for precise projections, but broadly, where do you think Bristol Sport might be in that period of time compared with calendar, what it would otherwise have been for 21?
I mean, yeah, this year I think it's going to be tough until we've got greater certainty. But 2021, like Sarah, we've had great clients who have just postponed all their bookings into, well, the latter part of this year, beginning of next. So it should be strong. We obviously have the Killers scheduled concert coming back next year as well. If we can get full crowds in stadiums, it will be a very positive. And I think people will be desperate to come and support their team. So we're very fortunate that we've got a fantastic fan base who I hope will continue to support us when they can't come by buying shirts, getting involved commercially, whatever that might be. But it will look more positive in January or when a vaccine is discovered. Obviously.
Okay, let's stick with January. January's a bit, we can be a little bit more confident about January, I suspect. You mentioned the Killers. Are tickets on sale at the moment or indeed not?
No, a lot of people just kept their tickets because it was sold out instantly.
Okay, fine.
So,
Fine. What about come on to Bristol as a whole? And one can argue that in many ways, because of and you've touched on this, the sort of the greenness, thoughtfulness, provenance, and the strong independence, and so on. It's probably in a better place than many cities. But against that, it is quite heavily reliant, or a key factor is hospitality, events. Education, which itself for different reasons, I'm thinking about tertiary education, is affected. On balance, where do you think Bristol will come out? Why are you either positive or negative about Bristol's prospects in the, 15, 18 months to come?
I think Bristol will fare really, really well. I think, I don't know, we do always seem to be at the forefront. I'm Bristolian, so yeah, I don't know, we seem to be at there's a sense of like people are very proud to be in the city and to sort of support it. And so I think we'll fare well compared to other places.
Yeah, I do too. And it's just that whole community thing. I think there's so much community, whether it's community gyms online or community newsletters, keeping everybody together. And it's that whole Bristol together, actually. Great slogan, and I do too. I really believe Bristol are going to come out well, and people want to come here. They want to come to university here. They want to come and holiday here. They want to come and live here. It's yeah, I think it's good.
I've witnessed so many positive things and acts of kindness as well throughout this time, which has been sort of really heartwarming, whether it's sort of a neighbour helping somebody else and that kind of thing. So I think the sort of the seeds are there for sort of positive growth. That sounds really cheesy.
Well, I don't know about cheesy. I think we all take comfort from wherever we can get it.
Yeah.
And for all the the warmth, positivity, community, and so on. Actually, how do you think Bristol will fare as a city commercially?
I think there's going to be challenging sectors. I think, obviously, if you look at the airport, travel and aviation is going to be really impacted. I know a lot of the schools, and you said universities, depend on international students. I don't know whether they'll have the confidence to come, what that learning experience will look like. And obviously, hospitality will be hugely impacted short term. And, that will create problems, economic problems, unemployment, which, any city has to tackle. I think Bristol, as Nicola and Sarah have said, is probably more resilient than others. But I think it will still be challenging.
Do you think you, personally, into the professional side really, but do you think you learn more from adversity than from success?
Yeah.
Gosh, yes.
It's the mother of invention, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think
that's probably more necessity, but yes.
Yeah.
But do you think that sense you've been prompted to think differently about business, about communication, business plans and so on, that you wouldn't have done? You just, got on doing what you do. So is that a positive in terms of sort of self-diagnostic that it's prompted your businesses?
definitely from our point of view. Sorry, can I speak? Yeah. Sorry,
Yes,
yeah. Sorry, I'm so sorry to cut across anyone. Yeah, absolutely. Oh my gosh, if I think how much I've learned, and actually, I must admit, before I never really found time to do all these, webinars and listen to all this, just to be part of anything. So it's been fantastic, and the support, like I said, out there, and just learned so much. I mean, gosh, TED Talks, I feel like I've done loads. Yeah, so I do. Yeah, I think it's been really good for us, really, gosh.
Maybe
hairs, but,
It's fun, like everybody's learnt new skills during this time, because we've been forced to adapt very quickly. Yeah, everybody has learnt something new along the way, so that's sort of useful in that respect.
Well, maybe it's never mind the open university. This has sort of been a closed university for the last 10 weeks or so.
Well, I mean, that's the thing. Although I don't think that we have been socially distant during this time, because while we've not been able to get together physically, it feels like socially people have actually pulled together a lot more. So I don't think it's the right term. We've not been socially distant. We've all been helping each other, whether, if it's from afar. We've been doing shopping for someone who can't do it and leaving it on their doorstep. There's been a sense of people helping each other out. So people have sort of come together during this time.
That's one of the paradoxes, and there are many of the pandemic. We've never been further apart and yet closer still. And it's one of the blessings of Zoom and social media and other routes and so on, is precisely that closeness. I want to come to one last question for you each. And I'm sure it's been really touching and you've each touched on this in different ways, about the good that people do. And we've been trying to push that through our social media channels, our email newsletter and so on. People have been incredibly thoughtful and supportive. And hence using that hashtag Bristol Together. That's precisely what it's meant to be about. But if I could ask perhaps Sarah to give an example of something that struck you, either in your own organisation or elsewhere in Bristol, about the good that people do.
Well, yeah, I've got a good friend of mine, Sarah Hunter, who actually works, who's been doing some work for the Northwest Food Bank in Avonmouth, and they literally work tirelessly. They're sending out food parcels, they're sorting through everything, they're on the phones, they're talking to people, supporting people, even in the middle of the night, and it really is. I'm lost for words, really, like awe-inspiring. It's just how everyone's getting together. Like I said once again, community newsletters, especially going out to the older people who are all stuck on their own and not able to see anybody. And I think it's been incredible. And actually, that makes me feel quite emotional, like crying when I talk about it. But yeah.
It's definitely been a very emotional time for us all, and those emotions in various ways. How about you, Nicola? What have you been struck by for the good that people do?
Well, first of all, the wider community here in Hanham's been really organised, and there's been a fantastic team that set up a community group, Hanham, response to COVID, and there's been a huge number of volunteers who have just been talking on the phone with people who might feel a bit lonely, organising, picking up prescriptions and food parcels for people, and there's been a real sort of drive for people sort of taking part in that. And then in our small little way in the shop, which is how it all comes together, I suppose, everyone doing little bits, we've been making face masks. I say we, so there's been 3 sewers in the shop who've been making them, and one was actually brand new to doing it. Her name's Kathy, and so I met her when I first opened the shop a few years ago. She's absolutely fantastic, always been really supportive of the shop, and she said, look, I know you have 2 small businesses already making them. Could I make some as well, sell them through you, and together we'll donate 50% of the sales to the local food bank, which is based in Kingswood Food Bank. And I thought that was a fantastic idea. It helped the other 2 small businesses all breathe a bit as well, because obviously, unfortunately, with the situation, the demand's really high, and it's just nice to be able to be a small part of that. And collectively, it's been so impressive.
And Caroline, talking of impressive, Bristol Sports, you may not otherwise want to say we have been so good, but you really have been an extraordinary exemplar of how a civically minded organisation can do good at a vital time. So tell us about some of the good that people do, and maybe Bristol Sport specifically does.
I'm really proud to work for Bristol Sport, and because the minute this happened, it was, what can we do for the community? So we're fortunate we've got the Robbins Foundation, the Bears Foundation, Flyers, Bristol Sport Foundation, but we just transformed Ashton Gate into a kind of food prep area, and we've delivered well in excess of 20,000 food parcels to the most needy in the community. And Chef George, usually in the kitchen serving all our hospitality guests, was making sandwiches, anything that he could do to support the community. So that's been great. But also we've got great partners, Thatcher's delivering, alcohol-free cider to the key workers, Eclectic making plastic PPE masks. It's extraordinary. People just wanted to help. And I think for me, the thing that came out of all of this as well is that we reset the dial. Our heroes weren't social media stars anymore. They were the doctors, nurses and key workers. And it just seemed like the world had woken up to how it should be. So I think that was fantastic for me as well.
Well, fantastic for you, but fantastic for all of us. I think all of you, this has actually been really emotional. That it's been inspirational, your positivity, and this isn't just falsely based. It's based on rooted in your experiences. Of course, there are tough times ahead, and of course, it won't go exactly to plan and so on. But I would think that everyone watching this would have taken a deep positivity from you, and it will help buoy up others as well. Because I tried to say at the beginning, come what may, we've all just got to get on with it. And if we can take succour and excitement and just energy from you in part of this, and we can promote it through Bristol Life, then happy days. I really, really have appreciated all three of you and your contribution today. And there'll be a big round of applause at this point, but it's going to be virtual. Our thanks to Nicola and to Caroline. Thank you each. Thank you very much. But thank you also to our sponsor, Bevan Britton. In subsequent versions of this, we will ask someone from the team to say a few words at the beginning, as they would do ordinarily at the Bristol Life Business Clubs in real life, which probably won't be recurring in physical form until January, it sounds like. That's our working assumption. But thank you for the continuing support of Bevan Britton during these times. Thank you, of course, also to you for your questions and your attention and engagement with this. Look out for our next Bristol Life Business Club, which I think is July 27th, so 2 weeks today. And also our Bristol Life Business Surgeries. I mentioned the one with Close Brothers. We have also had sessions with Bevan Britton, and we'll have others to come about practical areas of business advice. Might be technology, might be finance, might be employment law in particular, return to work, which is such a key topic for many. And if you've got professional advice, please come forward with that, because we all need help navigating here. This has been a Media Clash production, and I've absolutely been delighted personally to have hosted this Bristol Life Business Club. Thank you very much. And yes, Bristol together. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.